Hi everyone, this is Nivedan again here from Coffee and Startups, where we talk about the amazing world of startups and the technology that they are using to enable amazing solutions at scale. Today we have a very interesting guest. His name is Madhav Kasturia. Hi Madhav, I'm glad to have you on my podcast today. And for people who are watching, he's the founder of a company called ZFW Dark Stores. Just to give you a quick snapshot, they are making a full stack fulfillment tech platform which helps e-commerce brands to be closer to their customers. And they bring the possibility of 30-minute, 2-hour, and even same-day deliveries through their network of dark stores across India. We're going to talk a lot more about the company, their work, about Madhav's journey until here so far, and what lies ahead in the future for them. But before that, Madhav, welcome to Coffee and Startups. And I'm really glad that we made time and we're talking today. So, how are you doing today?
Hey Nivedan, thanks for having me on Coffee and Startups. I think it's midweek. We've already passed through the first 2 days of the week full of firefighting. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. So, I of course have been following your work a little bit from whatever I can get. And we've spoken about the things that you do, but I think it's something which is a very new concept for people who understand logistics themselves, right? It's not obvious for someone who looks at it from the outside to say, okay, what does ZFW really does? It's a B2B platform, yes, it's something related to logistics, but I would like to hear it from you. And for people who are watching, let's give them a brief on karte kya ho aap log.
So I think ZFW is built on a very basic foundation and thesis of India's consumer story, where we feel that Indian consumers of 2022 and going forward 2025 require things to be delivered and fulfilled as soon as possible. They want an Amazon-like, Zepto-like experience. And that's what we're enabling for a lot of brands, a 30-minute, 2-hour and same-day experience for their D2C demand, for their demand that comes on their own website, their own platforms. We want to fulfill those orders and deliver it to the users as soon as possible within the same day.
Got it. So they don't have to depend on someone like Amazon and Zepto anymore if they want to deliver high quality, quick delivery on their own direct platform. And that's through you.
So look, e-commerce and quick commerce platforms are sort of good at what they do in terms of discoverability and visibility and demand generation. But that always comes at a cost of high commissions and not owning your customer, not knowing who your customer is, not sort of owning the entire customer journey, right? And that's where it becomes very important for any brand in the entire consumer journey and value chain to have and activate a D2C channel where they can service orders directly and redirect e-commerce customers to their own channels.
Got it. So we're going to talk a lot more about it. I think this brief gets as a context for this podcast. I want to know a little bit about you, Madhav. We've briefly spoken more about ZFW, but I think I would love to know, how did you get to this point? What's your journey been till date?
So look, I started back when I was 18 years old in 2015, and we started as a small takeout store called Beijing Street in Delhi. And the first store did well for us. We moved on to the second store and then the third store. 2018, I graduated from college and decided to scale up in the entire cloud kitchen food delivery ecosystem. That's when we were running and operating 4 cloud kitchens across Delhi and NCR. 2020, FY20, we did a very good revenue. We scaled up well, but 2020 wasn't very good in terms of the first wave of COVID, right? And we had to pause and shut a lot of our stores. Mm-hmm. That's when we got time to sort of sit back and think of a more scalable model. And we evolved to being a dark store platform, enabling brands to first expand and then scale. And now at the third junction of expansion, deliver faster. So we're sort of so we've seen the evolution of the entire food delivery space from the very front row, from the Food Panda times, the Uber Eats times, all the way to Zomato and Swiggy, all the way to Uber Eats being acquired by Zomato, Swiggy getting into quick commerce. So that evolution we've witnessed from the very front row, and our thesis on the entire same day delivery comes from all of the evolutions that we've witnessed in the last couple of years.
Right. One thing that I noticed, which I have found to be honestly quite interesting, is that you started your last venture, Beijing Street, in 2015.
Right.
You did it for about 6 years. What were you doing in 2015?
So
Outside
at
of work, of course. Yeah.
outside of Beijing Street, at that time, I had graduated from school. I was just getting into college. So Beijing Street as a venture for me was a side hustle of sorts, which I was doing alongside college. So the first 3 years.
The 3 years of college, 2015 to 18, you were basically running a venture on the side.
100%.
Why? And how?
So I think the reason was fairly straightforward, that I had a lot of time at hand. Studying in Delhi is not very taxing in terms of time, right? And I had a lot of time to do multiple things, and this was something that was very interesting for me. It actually started off as a small Chinese takeout store, and then cloud kitchens were hot and upcoming, and we immediately evolved from takeout stores to cloud kitchens. We started delivery. We listed ourselves on all the upcoming platforms, and then we scaled to multiple categories. We did everything from Chinese to sandwiches to salads to I think almost all the cuisines and categories, and then we finally scaled up the business.
Got it. So running a business as a student, right? I think that's also something interesting that few people find let's say uncommon, right? It's unusual. Were there any specific lessons that you took away as a founder cum student at that time? How was your insight would be different as a student running this? What did you uniquely learn from that process?
I think two things in particular. One, that customers are very important. Keep listening to customers, keep listening to feedback, and keep sort of tweaking your own solution basis feedback. And second, you can't do everything by yourself. You need to build a team. You need teams and functions doing and sort of supporting multiple functions in the company, even if it's bootstrapped or if it's a funded company. You need teams in place to do a lot of the functions, and it can't be a one-man show.
So were you able to build a team back then, which was big enough for getting all the things off the ground?
Yeah, I mean, at that point in time, the quality of teams and say the quantum of teams are very different, right? More on the unskilled side, and since it was bootstrapped and I had invested in the company myself, the quantum of teams, the number of folks operating a store were very less as compared to how we sort of operate stores currently, right?
Got it. So let's come back to ZFW, right? I want to start by asking, what does ZFW stand for in the first place?
Interesting. I think I've answered this question on every podcast. Earlier the company was called Zippy Foodworks Private Limited, and then when we went on to being a VC-backed, investor-backed company, we sort of renamed this to ZFW Dark Stores. But the company remains the same, 8 balance sheets behind us. Okay,
I see. And Zippy was what? We were operating the Beijing Street under that name?
It was one of my older pets, when you started a company early on. So that's how you sort of keep names, right?
Got it. So let's talk about where are we today? Just I want to get a sense of how long has it been? What funds have you raised? What business are we doing today, as of today? And then where do we see it headed towards?
Right. So I think we're a pre-Series A stage company, and we've raised 3 rounds of capital across over the last, say, 15 months from investors across the US, Singapore, UAE, and India, and a bunch of VCs, a bunch of micro VCs, and some very strategic angel investors. We're currently present across 4 markets: NCR, Mumbai, Pune, and Bangalore, expanding into Hyderabad and Chennai as we speak, and supporting the growth of almost 50 plus consumer brands across categories, stages, and sectors, and with a team of about 30 people.
Wow! So that for the size of the team, being present in these many cities already must be quite a challenge, right? In the sense that you don't have too many people at one place. How are you? What's the business model here? How are you making it happen with such a small team?
So again, reiterating what I always say, that businesses aren't built on people, they're built on processes, right? So processes have to be scalable. Everything has to be documented well. No person can be running a function. The function has to be run via processes, and that's what we're building every day at ZFW.
Got it. I'm going to touch upon this a little bit more. As you said, the business is run on processes, not people, and this is not something that would sound as very obvious, because it seems like businesses are built upon people, right? So you have a context here, and I would like to understand what this context means in the case of ZFW. How do I see that? Okay, that's what you mean really by having dependency on people versus building solid processes. Where does it make the difference?
Pick up any function in a company, whether it's operations or it's finance or it's sales. Let's look at the three core functions, right? These are sort of P&L impacting functions. In any of these functions, if you dissect through what a day-to-day activity looks like for any of the team members, right? You'll figure out that every process, if documented well and if organized well, can be replicated by any other person in the team. So I'll give you a very quick example to sort of explain this well. If you look at a typical dark store operation, there is a dark store inventory controller who's controlling the inventory of every dark store across all of our dark stores at ZFW. He's required to do an opening check, a closing check, an expiry batch tracking check, a QC process if there are any returns or RTOs. That's a very replicable process across dark stores. So the process is not dependent on the function is not dependent on the person. It's actually dependent on the process. If the process is done well, it's documented well, and it's cross-checked well. If there's a maker-checker process there, function is definitely not dependent on people. And that's very important to understand and implement as a company grows.
Especially as you scale into more locations, more stores, that becomes even key. Otherwise, you will have probably massive roadblocks and things would go out of hand pretty quickly if everyone's doing things as they like, right? Is that the reality? Like, do you want to operate like in a franchisee model in that sense that you want to standardize everything really, really strictly? Is that what it means too?
No, so we don't believe in the franchisee model. We don't believe in outsourcing the model as much as we do in keeping control. So one is process formation and one is sort of having a very tight control over SLAs, right? When you outsource a lot of your functions, even with good processes, and the control is fairly decentralized, you can see a very critical impact on the SLAs. So those are the learnings of the last couple of months and quarters, and that's how we've sort of evolved to a company-owned, company-operated model where we like to set up, operate, and manage all of our facilities and infrastructure as an in-house function. And we've seen a very good shift in SLAs, a very good improvement in SLAs as we have moved from a partner model to a company-operated dark store model.
So you've tried the partner model and you've realized that the company-owned, company-operated COCO, right? That's what we call it. So COCO is the way to go for you guys from here, and you're sure that you want to keep it that way?
100%. I think we've been operating the partner model for the first 12 months of the business cycle, and we faced a couple of challenges with customers not being very satisfied, and because SLAs weren't being met, right? As we evolved one market from a partner market to a COCO market, we immediately witnessed the steep improvement in SLAs.
What was the underlying cause of that?
I think control. It's like any other business, right? When you're outsourcing, when you're partnering, even with good technology, even with good checking parameters, it's still outsourced control, right? And you feel the difference in service.
In a way, the person operating, if they're not a part of your organization directly, they feel like they're the owner of this business, and they can choose to not operate with your standards as strictly as you like. Is that the case?
Something as simple as when I'm operating a partner dark store, right? If there are 6 festivals in a particular year, he's going to keep shut on those 6 days. If there's an operational issue at his dark store, he chooses to keep the dark store shut. Something as small as wrong item errors, missing SKU errors. So all of these errors happen in the partner model just because of lack of control. But when we move into a company-operated, a very tight-knit model, I think we see a good 97% improvement in SLAs, and it's actually visible from day one.
Amazing. Got it. I think we missed out on a small thing. I think we both took the concept of dark stores to be granted here for people who are watching this. I think it would be a good idea that we take a quick pause and then define what dark stores really are and how are they different from a warehouse or a retail store, and why do we need them in the first place?
So dark stores are essentially micro fulfillment centers where these are closed rooms and halls where inventory is stored and picked and packed and dispatched and delivered to the nearest customer as and when the order comes in. And the difference between a dark store and a warehouse is warehouses are typically loosely used as those large carpet warehouses, like anywhere between 3,000, 5,000 square feet all the way up to a lakh or 2 lakh square feet. But dark stores start at 100 square feet, as small as 100 square feet micro fulfillment centers, and go up to about 2,000, 2,500 square feet, at least in our ZFW nomenclature.
Got it. And how many do you open in one city right now?
So our largest city, Bombay, has about 55 of those. Delhi has NCR has about 45, and then the remaining are in Bangalore and Pune.
55 and 45. That's a lot. One city having these many small dark stores. So you basically accomplished 30-minute target here.
So it's not about 30 minutes. It's actually a kilometer radius mapping, right? Every dark store enjoys a 3-kilometer exclusive delivery radius. In certain cases, 4 or 5 kilometers. So when you're mapping the city, say Bombay being 600 square kilometers, you typically need about anywhere between 45 to 55 dark stores.
Got it. So now when I think about this model, it sounds like it would probably be much more expensive than what let's say Flipkart and Amazon pay to their courier partners or their own in-house costs that they incur. What does the cost structure look like? How is it different?
So I think this is where a lot of brands go wrong, right? Costs are not higher than courier. You typically pay anywhere between $50 to $70 for an intercity courier.
Correct. A small package.
For a small package of, let's take for example, a 500 gram package. You pay around the same for last mile delivery and same day delivery with ZFW. For one reason, costing doesn't change because the riders are optimized in such a way. These are slotted deliveries. These are milk run based deliveries where a rider is delivering 15 orders, say on a route of 15 kilometers, and door to door is coming back in 4 hours. And the cost of a rider of operating 2 such trips a day is not more than 1,000 rupees. So costs don't increase unless the size of the packet is large or the weight is more than, say, a couple of kgs. That's when the cost shoots up. Otherwise, I think the cost is at par with the courier service costs.
Got it. That's very interesting. So,
and in fact, we're a little cheaper. We're a little cheaper for one reason, that when you're paying the courier, you're only paying for pickup and drop. You're not paying for storage. With ZFW, at around the same cost, you also pay for that also includes the 30-day storage.
So when you say courier, you mean let's say if I order a cosmetic product, let's say a cream on Amazon, some brand which is also associated with you, they would have presence there as well, right? So if I order from Amazon versus I order through their website and you're their partner, right? You're saying that the cost that they're going to pay Amazon fulfillment is going to be less or greater than what they're going to pay you?
So Amazon is totally different. When I was just right now comparing to a D2C brand fulfilling the order before ZFW and after ZFW.
Okay.
Amazon is all a percentage-based model. So typically Amazon charges anywhere between 15 to 30% of the price of the product or of what the customer pays as commission, which includes discoverability, fulfillment, and logistics.
Okay, got it. So the comparison is that present day, if they want to do it quickly on their own, that they can't use Amazon or Flipkart.
So the comparison was basically today, if a D2C brand is delivering the product to you, Nivedan, right? They're actually booking a courier, and the courier is coming, picking it up, and delivering it. Now, in a post ZFW era, if the brand is working with ZFW, it's a hyperlocal milk run based delivery. So it's pre ZFW and post ZFW, both on the D2C channel. E-commerce is a very different in terms of costing.
Understood. So I think, they should have been different, and definitely they are. So I think your closest analogy would be then with someone like a Zepto and Blinkit, right? That must be a comparison that would be fair to make, because they are focused very much on these hyper-local dark store model deliveries. Would it be fair to say that the costs there would be comparable then?
Right. I think the costs are comparable, and you end up fulfilling the order in 10, 20, 30 minutes. But again, it's a it's a PO-based distributor model where you have to first sell it to these platforms, and they first procure the inventory and further sell it to users, right? You don't have visibility into who's your consumer, what is he buying at what time of the day, in what quantity, and what is the reorder ratio, which are very important metrics for a brand to sort of tweak products, tweak marketing strategies to scale in the long run.
They're essentially running blind. There is no transparency between their end customer and there is no scope for future relationship nurturing in this case, and that is being enabled through their own website, through their own customers, and through your logistics services. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So if you look at what used to happen 10, 20 years ago, what's happening with e-commerce and quick commerce was brands used to sell their inventory to stores, general trade stores and modern trade stores, and they used to face the same issue of not having visibility into who's actually buying the product.
Right.
And to gain visibility, brands started setting up their own experiential stores, their own high street stores. So there was always a blend of their own stores and then them sending inventory to general trade, modern trade, basically all retail stores. In the online world, what happens is that, again, retail stores are compared to e-commerce and quick commerce, where you're selling inventory to these platforms who are further selling to users. And for having a direct channel with your customers, you need to have a D2C. So it's basically your own shop.
Makes sense. So let's understand which category of brands and type of brands would find something like this the most valuable. Who is it a biggest deal for?
I think relevant categories in this space are only growing. The number of categories in this space of relevance are only growing by the day. But definitely we have a close focus on the entire F&B space. As you know, we're doing about 25 plus ice cream brands across all 4 cities, beverage brands, mixers and chasers. We're now getting into the pharma space. Pharma is a very impulse and 2-hour need. And we're also getting into beauty and personal care. And we have a very strong thesis built on the entire BPC category, the beauty personal care category, where we see a lot of these brands being impulse purchases and having a same day, next day delivery as a good to have.
What metric does it change for these brands?
I think reorder rate, right? If you're buying a facial cream today and you actually see an ad on Meta on Instagram and you actually end up landing on the brand's website and you check out into an order, right? At the checkout page, if you see a delivery in 5 to 7 working days, your chances of converting into an order are low, and your chances of abandoning the cart are the highest. Whereas when you're actually on the checkout page and you see order by 3 p.m. and get it delivered by say 9 p.m. or early tomorrow morning, the chances of converting into the order are the highest, and the chances of the user abandoning the cart is the lowest.
That must mean a lot, especially when there's a new customer, and for them, if they're dropping out lesser at this stage, this means a big deal for these brands, right? What do we have any measurement of what is the difference in checkout rates that has been observed between these cases?
So we look at abandoned cart rate as a very important metric, which improves when you reduce the delivery time. And we witnessed that when the delivery time goes down from 4 days to 1 day, the abandoned cart ratio goes down from almost like 55% all the way down to 10%.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
That's a huge difference. You're actually capitalizing on the delta 45% carts and converting them into orders just by reducing delivery time. I'm not even counting the chances of the user coming back to your website if he likes the product. And the reduction in RTOs. So in the e-commerce,
there is no retention for someone who never ordered once. So that's the retention curve is automatically improved in that sense, right? The first order has been at least placed 55% to 10% abandoned cart. That's a huge difference. And this difference you're talking about, like you observed this
with a lot of our customers, think of yourself as an Amazon user, right? When you're going to buy something as small as a charger or something as irrelevant as a charger on Amazon.
Lord, yeah.
And you see a list of sellers and resellers and you say delivery in 1 day, delivery in 3 days, delivery in 5 days. What will you do as a user?
I'm likely to tweak my preference to suit the one which is going to be delivered.
Even if you pay an additional $20-30 on 1 day delivery, you want it tomorrow.
Wow. So you're basically doubling down on this trend that we as customers are basically getting spoiled and pampered a lot.
So I look at 3 metrics. I look at just 3 hero metrics for any brand wanting to grow.
Yeah.
Abandoned cart ratio has to go down. RTO rate has to go down. RTO rate basically means a change in mind, right? And the third one is retention.
Repeat.
Repeat users, retention. How frequently are users coming back into the funnel?
Got it. No, I think that makes perfect sense, especially for a D2C brand, which is right now most D2C brands are in the stage of acquisition more, where they need to get their product out in the hands of their potential customers for the first time. And any opportunity that lets them maximize that possibility, right? I think that's a deal breaker for them.
And even one more thing that we do that we believe that we do smartly is inventory management. Why? Because a lot of brands have concerns around keeping inventory across multiple points and multiple dark stores and multiple warehouses. Inventory aging is a very big problem, which is directly linked to working capital. The more the inventory on ground, the more the working capital. So we don't allow brands to keep inventory for more than 15 to 30 days, as against the larger incumbent warehouse companies where they allow brands to sort of store inventory for up to 3 months, 6 months.
What does it mean to not allow them? What happens then otherwise? Something is unsold by them.
Either it goes back or it's charged beyond 30 days because the first 30 days it's not charged.
What difference is that making exactly?
I'll tell you. So if you're starting 5 dark stores across 5 cities, it makes sense for you to keep 3 units of every SKU or 5 units of every SKU and not a box full of 24 units of every SKU.
Got it.
The more the inventory management, and the more the inventory, the more the working capital that is stuck in keeping inventory across our dark stores. And brands also have to realize that we operate small carpet dark stores because we're there in urban density, we're there around consumers. We pay at least 3x the amount of rentals on a per square foot basis as compared to larger warehouses. So for us, cost of storage is very high. And to sort of reduce that, we only allow inventory cycles of 15 days and 30 days. Got
it. Yes. For the kind of experience that they are now able to deliver to their customers, I think all of this makes sense. Whether it be being located at a prime place within the city, paying much higher rents, I think that makes sense. And for that, you need to also ensure that your inventory cycles are definitely low. Cool. So I think we've covered a lot about this. Are there any popular brands that you can help us know that these guys are operating with you now, and we can get that quickly over here?
Yeah, I think we're doing Epigamia, we're doing Rage Coffee, we're doing Jimmy's Cocktails, we're doing Face Shop, and we're doing a bunch of other brands.
Okay. And what percentage of their orders are coming from their own website?
I think that's very dynamic because these are fairly omni-channel brands and they're operating with e-commerce, quick commerce. A couple of them are also in modern trade. A brand like Epigamia is highly focused on general trade. So percentages of D2C order volumes sort of vary.
Got it. And what would be a high number for them? For any D2C brand? Like, is 50% high or is 20% high?
No, 50% is high.
Got it. There are brands who are, who've been successful enough to direct enough audience to their own website and not get every single order be commission charged through Amazon, Flipkart, and other platforms, right?
Rage Coffee's done a very good job in building their entire D2C business, redirecting customers and building customer love.
I see. Yeah. So then for them, it doesn't make sense to kind of piggyback the Amazon's discovery value all the time. They have their own.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. So I want to come back to this point that you said that running a company, it's way more important to set up great processes and not depend on people. But I want to understand, you're still at a relatively early to mid stage. Is that correct?
Sorry?
I'm saying you're still early to mid stage in your journey at ZFW. Is that correct?
Correct. Always early.
Right. Well, if early was a mindset.
Yeah.
So I want to know, how you operate. I want to get a peek into your way of thinking of how you build this company, how you structure your own thoughts, processes, whatever context that you're operating in, right? I want to know how do you keep yourself planned and organized, and if there is something that you can share with us here, I think that would be useful.
100%. I think at least in my case, since I was a single founder and I am, it's very important to stay organized and not end up firefighting every single day of operations, right? So I choose to believe that I try to stay organized on a 5-day, 6-day week. If I have to be specific in what I actually do, rule number one, everything that a founder does has to be on one panel, on one dashboard. So you can't have tasks written on Excel, a couple of them written on a WhatsApp group chat that you've made with your own self, a bunch of them posted on Notion the day one is very energetic. They're like, I'm going to organize my Notion today. And a bunch of them on Trello, and people on the tech side building products on Jira and so multiple tools are never effective. Right. One tool has to be driving your day, has to be driving your week, and has to be driving life. So in my case, I use Notion for that, and I sort of try to stay organized with all of my tasks on Notion.
Yeah, always a pleasure to meet another Notion power user. I think we spoke about it, and I'm a massive power user of Notion personally. And no one usually evangelizing Notion for free. They should probably pay me $100,000 a year for having
100%. All of us should be on
so much.
100%.
Payroll.
Yeah, we should be on their payroll. So one is using one dashboard to organize everything in life. Second is, once tasks are on the task list, right? Whether be it Notion, be it an Excel, be it a Google Sheet, or even a self WhatsApp group. I strongly believe that every task on the calendar is what you have already made time for and what gets done. Anything not on the calendar, not something that you've blocked time for, will never get done, will always keep rolling over to the next day, the next week, the next month. And that's how the list never finishes, and it becomes an unending list of tasks. So everything has to be calendared well, right from travel time to office to what you're doing in office. So it can't be as open as keep 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. as for calls. So within that call blocker, it should be like a 10-minute blockers of 6 calls. And with a pipeline of these 6 people you have to speak to between 11 and 12, right? So you exactly know what you have to achieve in that 1 hour. And what works well for me is that the first half of the day is the self-homework sort of time, where I'm actually thinking of what next, how are we structuring the next line capital rounds, how are we structuring growth the next quarter, and what is the hiring strategy, what is the hiring pipeline funnel, and all of the work that I need to do by myself happens in the first half. And once I'm sort of exhausted by post lunch is when my review calls start for the day.
Got it. So is there any possibility we can get a glimpse of what your dashboard looks like?
Allow me a moment. Let me just check.
So this is what your Notion looks like. Guy, walk us through how do you keep yourself organized? How do you plan your stuff out?
So I think the key is not maintaining the best format or the best design of the Notion Kanban board. It's just to be disciplined about it and update tasks and update the statuses of every task as and when done, so that the tracker is telling you what to do and you don't end up thinking about what to do. I feel where a lot of our team members and other founders go wrong is that they spend the first few hours of the day actually thinking what to do. Because there's so much to do, but they're not organized. So staying organized, creating a P0, P1, P2 method of operating. In my case, as you can see on the screen, low, medium, high, right? And this is just a couple of tasks from our old tracker, and changing the status, changing the date created, and just ticking them. You see a very important column on the left, the tick box, check box column, right? People always wonder why this column is here. So for example, task number 2, there's a brand called Artinchi that we operate, right? If I've looked at this task today and there's nothing to do here, so I have to just tick this task that I've checked it for today. And then I look at this task and then I check off this task, and then I look at this task and then I check off this task. And then I come back tomorrow and I look at all of them, because there are a couple of tasks which are going to roll over to the next few days.
Yeah.
So this is a checkbox for that particular day, and then you untick all of them, and then you go back to the day and come back next morning and then again go through the list again.
Amazing. So this is where you keep yourself personally organized. Is there any team collaborative space? For example, this is your company wiki kind of a thing, I see.
So yes, so this is the ZFW dashboard. This tab takes care of HR. This tab takes care of our social media, our sales trackers, finance, burn controls, fundraising trackers, and of course our overall team to-dos, and then internal value proposition, competition tracker. And so this is the larger master dashboard and the more collaborative approach with our colleagues.
Right. Does that mean, do you have all of your team here or not?
So very, very good question. I think the first year of operating the business, my only challenge was to sort of push everybody to adopt Notion, right? And adopt one tool and the same tool. But I think after a year of pushing and failing very badly, because teams are not very used to tools like Notion, and everybody's not comfortable with a tool as good and complex as Notion, right? So I sort of came to terms that let everybody use what they're comfortable with, and let's not push one tool to everybody. So within our organization, there are folks who are very comfortable with Excel. There are folks who are very comfortable with plugging on tasks and organizing them on their own personal self WhatsApp group. And some of them are very comfortable on Google Sheets. So I think the key here is to stay organized and stay disciplined and updated every day. The tool doesn't matter.
So tell me, how would that work exactly? For example, if you're on Notion, I am on Asana, and someone else is on Excel, right? Let's say we are all three of us are keeping our track there. That's possible, yes. So how does the collaboration here happen? Number one, and then second, how does how do you ensure the discipline of each person, making sure that they keep themselves organized, if not on the same tool? Both are important questions for me here.
I'll take up the second one first. I think as an organization, we're stitched in a way that we're more output driven. I'm not going to see the Notion dashboard or the Trello dashboard of each and every employee or even the function leads, as long as the work is getting done. And if you're not organized of how you operate, it shows, because we do weekly reviews at ZFW, right? And I personally take post-call notes of each and every call and take a follow-up of that as a start to the next week calls. So if you're not organized and if you've sort of dropped the ball on a couple of agendas, it shows. And it's directly linked to how serious and disciplined you are with your own task tracker. So that's to answer your second question. And to answer the first question, how do we collaborate? I don't think we need to collaborate across
on
teams.
certain projects where, let's say, you need to assign me something, I need to assign you something. How does that happen here? Is everything done on a live call over a Zoom, and then everyone writes their own? But I can't put if during the week, let's say on Friday you did the review, but on Monday or Tuesday I want to assign something to you. How do I do that now?
So two very important things. One, we do weekly reviews, and that's the only time where we're striking off, giving and reviewing tasks. So all tasks mentioned in those review calls get uploaded on their own respective task trackers. And the next week, the task tracker is on the screen, and that's the starting point. After the post call notes of the last week, I think the task tracker that the teams are maintaining are on the screen. So
they share the screen and made it visible to everyone.
100%. So when I'm doing
there you
ops
go.
review,
That answers. Yeah.
yeah. So when I'm doing an ops review, the ops task list screen or the task tracker screen is always on the share screen, and that's how we're able to see what's happening where and what's going wrong where.
And if something shows up in the middle of the week, which I'm sure it always does, then that's taken care of a little bit more ad hoc and on a personal basis.
More ad hoc currently, correct.
Right. Well, you've got to always have space for that, of course. So, it makes sense that everyone's sharing their task screen. Now that is something I think which can be actually used as a strategy, that you're free to use whatever you want to, but as long as the work is getting done and we have some transparency every week, this slot, I think that simplifies things a lot, and nobody needs to keep checking, and that would feel like micromanaging beyond a point. So I think that's a very, very different kind of a strategy that I have been used to, for example, the organizations that I've worked with. But I do keep just on this opportunity, because I love this topic personally, and I am a massive user of Notion myself. I'll just share my screen and show how I keep myself organized here. And people who know me well, they kind of they know that I'm amongst the most organized people they ever know. So I take a lot of pride in my Notion dashboard. You can see that dashboard right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So look at this. For example, I just keep some principles and values that I like to align myself with about discipline and productivity, and asking the right questions. That's on the top. That's just a reminder to me. Then I have some broad goals that I keep for myself, personal and professional here. Very broad goals, just to align. Nothing actionable here.
Right.
I have a certain routine of the day which I want to slot it out, and there is a journal that I keep here. And every day I have a journal. I'm unable to keep it every single day. A few times a month is what the frequency I get at. That's up to someone. Like if I go into this fold, for example, you'll find a long list of all the journals I've been making, and this includes a lot of questions I want to ask myself and reflect, right? And It has its own template. There are prompts which are there, and I just say, okay, how am I feeling today? What's my plan for the day? I just go through this routine at times, and that helps most when I'm most overwhelmed for whatever reason. And then I keep my today here. Today's task goes here. And for example, before this call, I was making some notes about something, and Madhav called, right? So I'm going to take it off right now. I'm going to take it off right now just for the pleasure of it.
Right.
And then I have tomorrow planned. By the end of the day, I will have times associated with each of them. What slot am I planning default? And then whatever is not for tomorrow goes in this week. And then of course, beyond that, I keep all my initiatives and projects here in my dashboard. Right. So I've got a real estate business. I've got Coffee and Startups podcast. I've got some engagement with LLA. It's one of the biggest YouTube channels there. A very good friend of mine runs it. We're working on something together. And then I have personal things like, for example, I've written a small thing, memory, coach and games. Like I'm bad at memory. And this task has been pending for so long that I need to train myself with better, opportunities for training my memory. Family matters, finance. What am I doing with my investments, and what is the status of each of them? I assign timelines here this way. And once every week or every month, I review these project tasks which move back up in this week and on today's
the order
calendar.
Of priority, right?
Exactly. So all of these are low priority things here at the bottom. The high priority ones have already been captured in this segment.
Absolutely.
So I run it this way, and this is only the surface, by the way. There's a lot to dig into. Like all the content that I create gets managed on this. It's funnily called Ketki Hub, because Ketki is my colleague who manages everything, and this is an ode to her because without her nothing would be happening. Right? So I just call it Ketki Hub. We have got these many things going on, all the task boards. Now this is where the project-wise tasks are organized. Right? So this is how, for example, my next task is to learn vidIQ for YouTube. I don't know how to do that, and I'm going to learn that. Canva templates that I have to fix. I have to revise my bio. All of these things. 2 people have joined my team, Gokul and Ratiksha. Exactly what needs to be done for their onboarding, for instance. So I really take pride in this. I really enjoy doing this thing. For example, Ratiksha, if she's to come and on board, I started with, okay, what are my goals with this engagement with Ratiksha, right? What are the skills that she's going to need to set her expectations? What are the next steps? How is she going to start her engagement with in her internship? So this is kind of all, and I'm sure the way you kind of dig into each segment in your own company, that's how I do for my own projects here, and we collaborate on necessary things with each team separately.
Absolutely. So, I have a lot to learn from your Notion dashboard. I think I'm going to take An empty copy of that.
I am planning to sell it. This is not coming for free.
100%. Willing to share out $100 for this.
I'm going to invoice ZFW, and you'll have the Notion dashboard anytime then. But no, on a serious note, I do think that organization of one's own life, and my entire life is organized here. Like if I have a thought right now, which I think
it goes on here.
Thinking
it goes on here.
It's my life dump, right? So this is probably, and I'm saying this out in public, like my Notion is probably my most important asset out there. People are like, "Mera bank ka password bahut important hai," and I'm like, "No, don't get access to my Notion." So it's just too much of my life put in there. So it's like, if I die tomorrow, my autobiography is sorted.
It's on Notion. I know where it is.
Yeah, and people would know exactly what time I did what in the day on 5 years ago, 20 years ago as well, right? In that sense, and they know what meal I had. So essentially, that's the level of tracking I do here, and it has made my life so much better as someone with terrible memory and so much complexity to deal with day in, day out.
Absolutely.
Right?
You stay more organized, and I think more than staying organized, I think the feeling of being organized is also great.
Absolutely. That's what I'm telling you. I take pride in this.
Right.
Feeling of being organized, because you want to look back at your day and say, it feels productive today. Oh, tomorrow's planned. I've got shit in control. And of course, if you don't do that, then the feeling of control goes away, and that is a great trigger to anxiety, I think.
True.
But yeah, that was I took a little bit of a detour from our default discussion. I want to come back to that. I think I love how you organize your entire company as well. We couldn't get a glimpse into each of these segments, but in terms of what you do with HR and what you do with finance. But I'm sure there's a lot of organization going on there.
Correct.
So, okay, we've covered a little bit of this, and I think this is a topic probably which is best kept for YouTube and Google search, how to organize myself, and that's what we covered here. A very, very necessary topic, I would say. And I want to move on to the last segment of our podcast now. I have a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you, right? So one is, I want to get a little bit of insight from you here, right? You've been operating in your cloud kitchen space for a while, and then now logistics, and you work with a lot of D2C brands. What trend do you think is going to be extremely defining in India in the next decade? Which especially consumer and business trend?
I think the consumer of 2025 and the consumer of 2030 is a consumer who's absolutely aware of what he's consuming, is a consumer which exactly knows the alternate options of a particular product, is not going to is not going to a retail store and just buying a packet of chips or a packet of cookies, is actually exploring the better options. Maybe it can be healthier, it can be clean label, it can be more value for money, it can be more sort of new age in terms of product design, and it can be better for you. But the consumer of 2025 and 2030 is much more aware as compared to the last couple of decades. And this is on the consumer side, and I think on the consumer businesses side,
right,
brands are going to follow a very balanced omni-channel approach while scaling up. The last 5 years, we've seen a lot of focus on D2C. We've seen a lot of focus on e-commerce heavy businesses, but our strong thesis tells us that brands have to adopt an omni-channel approach to scale well in a country like India. And the approach always has to be centered around the mass market, intersection mass premium categories and segments.
Got it. And just because we're moving in this direction of consumers becoming extremely aware and more opportunities for newer businesses to spring up, what does it mean for the traditional behemoths in FMCG space, for instance? How are they going to cope with this new trend? Will they be challenged because of it, or they can go on as they are, they're fine?
So look, they definitely cannot go on as they are, and we've seen a lot of them evolving. We've seen a lot of these traditional, larger incumbent business houses acquiring new age brands, and we've seen all of them a few of them acquiring brands, a few of them becoming a house of brands, a few of them developing new labels internally. So definitely the trigger of new brands entering the space has sort of increase the speed of evolution in these larger traditional incumbent players as well, and we're seeing a shift in their approach, less towards retail but more towards an omni-channel approach of e-commerce intersection retail intersection D2C.
Got it. And what my perception and a lot of people's perception about D2C brands, since you work so closely with them, is that they are a little bit more premium all the time, right? I can still go out and buy a biscuit like a Parle-G or an Oreo or a Jim Jam, right? And that costs me what, $10 at best, right? When I look at the D2C brand options, and I've ordered a bunch of them, it's usually at least 5x expensive, typically. 3x to 5x is the expensive side, and probably a lot has to do with the logistics cost involved as well. So where do you see this going? Because how does mass market really happen in a country like India, where the mass market is the income sensitive or lower income and high price sensitive market?
So how does a brand reduce costs? A brand reduces costs at scale and with economies of scale and with optimization of resources, right? When a brand is in its early stages, it's very difficult to optimize costs and sort of apply the economies of scale at a smaller scale, and that's why the increase in cost has to be shifted to the end customer, and hence the increase in price. Now, when these larger incumbent players, two options, actually two use cases. One, when these larger incumbent players acquire these smaller brands, they take these brands to a larger scale and reduce the price. And they're able to do that because of the larger scale, the larger infrastructure that they're already managing. And second, when these smaller brands expand and become larger brands, when they're present across multiple cities, multiple channels, and are also following this omni-channel approach of e-commerce, quick commerce, general trade, modern trade, in some certain cases B2B, it's easier for them to drop the costs and hence reducing the end customer pricing.
So you think very soon we may see a more head-on clash between the incumbent, the bigger ones versus the new ones, because they'll now be, kind of intersecting at the same price point that we are likely to see soon? Because I don't see that happening as of now. Very big deal. For example, in some I do. I think, for example, Mamaearth and all, their price to be well a little pricey, but do you think they'll be head-on very soon? A lot of them.
So I feel there'll be a lot of valuation correction in the consumer space, because when these traditional players are acquiring these new age brands which have scaled well, they're going to be giving EBITDA multiples. They're not going to be giving revenue multiples, because at the end of the day, these larger companies are focused on the bottom line and not the top line, whereas these new age players like to remain well capitalized and like to sort of focus on the scale part of it and the top line part of it more than the bottom line part of it, at least in the first 3 or 5 years. And that's going to be a big change that we're going to be witnessing in the next. We have witnessed this year, and I think this year has been a good year for correction. But we're going to be seeing this evolution and change over the next 2-3 years.
Got it. I want to ask a last couple of questions. They're more about you, and I want to know you better through this. What one thing are you kind of proud of accomplishing, and why? It can be something that you've done in the past, or you're proud of doing right now.
I think the one proud thing is of being an operator since the start and hustling on ground and not only just operating out of an office. Back in the Beijing days, right from buying vegetables to buying poultry to buying sort of groceries all on ground. So I've gotten a good, not only a ringside but an on-field view of everything that happens on ground, how to deal with.
You've taken a few punches, basically.
Yeah, I've taken a few punches, and that's very important. I feel for any entrepreneur, I think that's very important as they scale up.
Got it. Great. And if I would like to also know the exact opposite. What is one thing that you consider as being a failure for you, and how that changed you?
This is a very long answer, a bunch of failures, but I think one good failure that I had a lot of learnings from was this food festival that I did in Bombay. I was in Bombay for a good stint of 8-10 months back in 2018. Decided to organize this food festival, focused on everything but the footfall, focused on everything but marketing and promoting the event, and figuring out where the footfall will come from. Sold the stalls, got the entertainment in place, did everything I could, and in the end figured out that I put up a good show. Production is done well, stalls are there, artists are there, everything is as it should be at a food festival, but there is no crowd. And that's where we learned that sales is very important, point number one, and you can't do everything by yourself, point number two.
Wow.
So these are the two key learnings.
Wow. But that must have been a very embarrassing day in some ways. And can you laugh about it now?
Yeah, I mean, now when you look back at it, you sort of laugh at it, but it was more than embarrassing. It was more of a sort of a stressful situation, right? That it is what it is, but you have to go through it. So right from the cops reaching the venue, to exhibitors shouting, to everything happening in just those 48 hours.
Okay, that must. Okay, yeah. If people really got upset, then you have bigger trouble in hand.
People have paid $40,000 for exhibiting a food stall for 2 days, right? And when they just see 500 people just coming for the food festival, or say 2,000 people coming for the food festival, it's a major put off, rightfully.
Okay. So no, yeah, I think things like these do give you very strong lessons, and you took yours. So
right.
Very interesting to know that. I think I've experienced something similar on a smaller scale back in college when we were trying to conduct an event and music event, and I let's say faltered on the same front. I think I didn't market it enough. This was a smaller, low stake scenario, unlike yours, where you had real big money involved. So thankfully, that for me, it was simply a small embarrassment. Like, okay, today didn't come. I'll take care next time. But it's much harder to move on when you've got much more at stake. So since then I've made sure that I kind of marketing is always there. Like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to reach out? These questions always stick around.
Always answer.
That's great. And I see that you've made sure that even when you talk about ZFW and in all your pitches right before, you made the depth of understanding of every potential customer very clear, like why they want to do that, and we know exactly who to reach out to. That was your sales mindset, saying that I need to get this footfall in for ZFW as well, and it gives a lot of investor confidence as well.
Absolutely.
So cool. Thank you so much, Madhav. I think we've spoken about a lot of things, and we've gotten an opportunity to bring out some of our insights, and especially the part where people who still think that they can get away with a lot of responsibility and complexity by not having an organized life. I think for them it's a good reflection moment for them as well. So thank you so much. I think
thanks for having me. Pleasure to be on your show, Coffee and Startups.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you as a guest here, and for the people who are watching, thank you so much for watching us again, and I'll be back with another episode on Coffee and Startups very soon.